Good evening, friends. Today I am discussing about the topic overhead variances. Overhead variances is the difference between standard overhead cost charged to production and the actual overhead cost incurred. Overhead cost variance is split into variable overhead variance and fixed overhead variance. Variable overhead variance includes variable overhead cost variance. Variable overhead cost variance is the difference between the actual variable overhead and standard variable overhead cost for actual output. Variable overhead cost variance can be divided into variable overhead expenditure variance and variable overhead efficiency variance. First one is variable overhead efficiency variance. Variable overhead efficiency variance is the difference between the allowed variable overhead and the absorbed variable overhead. Second one, variable overhead expenditure variance. Variable overhead expenditure variance is the difference between the actual variable overhead incurred and allowed variable overhead based on the actual hours worked. The next one is fixed overhead variances. First one, fixed overhead cost variance. Fixed overhead cost variance is the difference between the standard fixed overhead for actual production and actual fixed overhead. Fixed overhead cost variance is split into fixed overhead expenditure variance and fixed overhead volume variance. Fixed overhead expenditure variance. Fixed overhead expenditure variance is the difference between budgeted fixed overhead and actual fixed overhead incurred. Fixed overhead volume variance. This is the variance is the difference between fixed overhead absorbed and budgeted fixed overhead. The fixed overhead volume variance is split into three sub-variances: capacity variance, efficiency variance, and calendar variance. First one, capacity variance. Capacity variance is the portion of fixed overhead volume variance which is due to working at higher or lower capacity than standard. It relates to capacity utilization of the plant and machinery. Second one is efficiency variance. Efficiency variance is the portion of fixed overhead volume variance which is due to difference between budgeted efficiency and actual efficiency. The last one, calendar variance. It is a portion of volume variance which is due to difference between standard number of working days and actual number of working days. I hope it is clear. Thank you.